Uber is still off the grid, but it's offering a solution. President Duterte praises an overnight anti-drug raid that killed 32 people and arrested over 100 others. And entertainment columnist Ricky Lo responds to Chris Aquino on an issue involving her son Bimbi. With a story that gets to the heart of many commuters. Transport regulators are firm. App-based company Uber remains suspended for 1 month. But Uber apologizes and offers a huge amount to make up for its mistakes. We'll give you that report later on. Right now, we move on to Senator Bam Aquino, who discussed the meeting with transport regulators and Uber executives. Speaking to our chief correspondent, Pia Ontiveros, Aquino said no one is contesting the LTFRB's order to penalize Uber. But he said the company should simply be allowed to pay a fine.
The penalty given to Uber shouldn't be stop operations, no? Most of the time in modern economies, kapag may regulator at kapag mga kumpanya ang kausap mo, especially those who are serving a public interest, usually it's a fine, no? So we were firstly asking LTFRB why stop operations yung naging decision nila. From our point of view, we want the penalty to be one where no one else is penalized, because with the current penalty na stop operations, hindi lang yung Uber yung nape-penalize, pati yung driver at yung gumagamit ng Uber yung parang napeperwisyo.
The Service Road host James Deacon also weighs in on the issue between LTFRB and Uber. Speaking to our chief correspondent Pia Ontiveros on Newsnight, Deacon says there are lessons we can learn from the suspension of Uber. He adds the country should also look at the impact of the suspension on commuters and the government.
I think the majority of the Uber profile are private car owners that would not necessarily go back to cabs, or they didn't even really come from cabs. So we're seeing, so some people are saying that the traffic's a little bit better, but some of people are also saying that the parking is absolutely horrendous. So, you know, you've got that situation happening out there, which is a problem, because when you have, if one Uber is servicing technically 15 or 20 cars a day, as we talked about earlier on Facebook Live, the issue is you don't get those 15 or 20 cars off the road at the exact same time. But you will take away 15 or 20 parking spaces in certain areas. So that's, I think, where if we can learn anything from the suspension, anyway, we can't change it, right? So if we can learn anything from it, is what the impact will be.
Once again, transport regulators are firm. App-based company Uber remains suspended for 1 month. But Uber apologizes and offers a huge amount to make up for its mistakes. Our Makoy Popioco reports.
Uber Asia Pacific head Mike Brown said they will appeal to LTFRB if they can pay a fine instead of serving the suspension.
The details still need to be worked out, but we are very willing to work with the LTFRB. If we can pay a fine as part of rectifying what happened there, we will do that, because our top priority is to get drivers back on the road and earning, and to serve the people of the Philippines.
After the special meeting before some senators on Wednesday, land transport regulators say they have allowed Uber to file another appeal on its suspension. Senate Committee on Public Services Chair Senator Grace Poe agrees that Uber pay fines instead of a blanket suspension.
Ang offer ng Uber ay napaka-generous. Bakit? Dahil tinatanggap nila ang kanilang pagkakamali. Pangalawa, sinabi rin mismo nila na kung ano yung requirements ng LTFRB na hinihingi sa kanilang mga data, bibigay nila. Pangatlo, sinabi rin nila na ang kompensasyon na ibibigay nila sa mga drivers ay ibibigay nila. At magbabayad pa sila ng multa.
When asked how much fine Uber is willing to pay, both Poe and LTFRB Chief Martin Delgra refused to give specific answers.
Basta ang masasabi ko sa inyo, milyon-milyon. Multiply that many times.
We don't have any figures yet. I don't want to speculate, because we will see that in the pleading that they will file this week.
Delgra said Uber told them they will immediately submit the appeal this week. But even before Uber's filing, land transport regulators already scheduled the hearing on August 23. Delgar says it's the earliest schedule they can set given the agency's protocols. Before the special meeting, Delgra and Brown chanced upon each other at the meeting room's entrance. What followed was an interesting exchange of words.
We're going to do everything we possibly can to show that we respect the authority of the LTFRB.
Thank you very much.
I'm very sincere in that. And if there's been a misunderstanding in the past, that's on us, and I apologize for that misunderstanding.
So let's try to respect each other here. This is not a fight. We're trying to work together here to address public transportation issues.
After the meeting, Delga remarked he was surprised to see the behavior of Uber officials at the meeting. He said it was a complete turnaround from how they had dealt with them in the past. Makoy Popioko, CNN, Philippines.
And as authorities find ways to ease commuting stress, a lawmaker wants to require government officials to take public transport at least once a month. Aangat Tayo Party List Representative Neil Abayon says public officials need to leave their cars behind and commute. Abayon says he wants high-ranking officials to join commuters once a month on a weekday during rush hour.
Mahirap pag kami naman nasa Congress lang sa office. Parang ano lang kami, we're sitting on our high chairs ba, kumbaga. Iba pa rin kung pupunta talaga kami sa field to see the actual problem that the riding public faces on a daily basis.
The bill covers all elected and appointed public officials and civil servants with the rank of division chief to department secretary. For their ride, Abayon says they can take their pick from buses, trains, taxis, transport network vehicle services, jeepneys to tricycles. And should they travel by air or sea, officials should book only economy class seats. The bill doesn't provide penalties for violators or how exactly authorities can carry it out.
Pag-usapan muna namin sa committee ko kasi mahirap naman pag ipakulong kasi we are in a democratic country. Pwede rin fine ngayon. Pwede rin siguro bawasan natin yung sweldo.
Some public officials agree with the proposal, saying it will give them first-hand experience that will help them craft realistic laws. More local news later. Now, here are some top stories from around the world. The hunt for survivors of the deadly mudslide in the West African country of Sierra Leone continued Tuesday. The official death toll is now at 245, with over 600 still unaccounted for. Around 2,000 to 3,000 people have been displaced. Massive floods and landslides hit near the capital city of Freetown Monday, destroying buildings and leaving low-lying homes underwater. At least 30 people were killed and more than 80 others injured in a triple suicide attack Tuesday in the West African country of Nigeria. Civilian vigilantes fighting Boko Haram Islamists say the attack happened in the town of Mandrari in Nigeria's Borno state. 3 female suicide bombers detonated their explosives in a local market and outside a nearby camp for people displaced by Boko Haram violence. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack. And it's official. Twitter announces former U.S. President Barack Obama's tweet regarding the violence in Charlottesville is now the most popular in its history. Obama tweeted Saturday a quote from Nelson Mandela's 1994 autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom, that said, quote, "No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love, for love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite." The quote was split into 3 tweets, the first of which has been liked more than 3.2 million times. It's also the 5th most retweeted post of all time. Find out why President Duterte considers the death of 32 people following a drug operation in Bulacan a, quote, good thing. And in entertainment, columnist Ricky Law has strong words for TV host Chris Aquino after she took offense to his recent article. The Bulacan police killed 32 people and arrested over 100 others in an overnight drug raid, and President Duterte is praising the operation. Speaking at the founding anniversary celebration of advocacy group Volunteers Against Crime and Corruption, the president issued a warning to local officials who failed to stop illegal drugs. The president showed an updated narco list as of August 8th. He described how difficult it is to end the drug problem when officials from policemen, mayors, and judges are involved with drug syndicates. Here's the president in his own words.
Yung namatay daw kanina sa Bulacan, 32 in a massive raid. Ganda yun. Makapatay lang tayo ng another 32 every day, then maybe we can reduce what is this country.
Mr. Duterte recently received flack after admitting that he cannot control the drug problem, which is among his main campaign promises. At the time, he said he wasn't aware of how complicated the drug situation was. Ozamis Mayor Reynaldo Parohinog and his family were buried today amid renewed calls for justice from their family and supporters. Some members of the controversial clan are thinking of quitting politics to avoid the apparent cycle of violence that has plagued the family. Our senior correspondent David Santos tells us more.
Perhaps traumatized over the seeming cycle of violence that plagued the family like a curse, these young members of the Parohinog clan are vowing to stay away from politics. Osamis City Mayor Reynaldo Parohinog Sr., his wife Susan, and siblings Mona and Octavio Jr. are all finally laid to rest on Wednesday. Vice Mayor Nova Parohinog, detained in Camp Crame, had her eulogy read during the funeral mass. She pins the blame on the death of her parents along with 14 others on political rivals and Osamis Police Chief Joby Espenido, who carried out the July 30 bloody drug search.
Every time I hear Espenido's allegations, I remember the politicos who were very much jealous of Papa. Exact and same fabricated stories.
Government workers and residents joined the funeral march as school children waved flags on the side streets. At the Mount Malindang Memorial Park, emotions once again ran high as the slain Parohinogs are buried in the family mausoleum. While they have been calling out for justice over what they deem was the use of excessive force during the operation, the family has yet to decide whether they will be pursuing a complaint. Nova is said to be considering quitting politics amid fears the tragedy that befell her family may happen again.
Siguro sa nangyari po, parang trinaydor siya sa lahat ng natulungan.
With their quest for justice now facing uncertainty, the Parohinog say they will carry on. After all, this is something they've been through before, twice. Parohinog Patriarch Octavio Sr. and another son Renato, both linked to the dreaded Coratong Baleleng, were all gunned down in separate incidents about a decade apart. And just like previous killings in the family, the Parohinogs are leaving it up to fate if they can get justice. The Catholic Church is calling for sobriety and an end to the violence in Osamis.
We need to calm our people because we need to let the rule of law prevail.
Archbishop Humowad says, painful as it may sound, but one's family's tragedy can also be seen as a city beginning a new chapter in its history. In Osamis City, David Santos, CNN Philippines.
The Commission on Appointments rejects with finality the confirmation of Social Welfare Secretary Judy Taguiwalo. She's now expected to vacate her post. The committee said a majority vote was reached against Taguiwalo's confirmation, although it did not say how many members voted against her. The CA said it conducted a thorough review of Taguiwalo's background to see if she would be fit to serve as the head of DSWD. Taguiwalo is a third member of President Rodrigo Duterte's cabinet, rejected by the powerful body. The other two are Perfecto Yasay Jr. as Foreign Affairs Secretary and Gina Lopez as Environment Secretary. Taguiwalo has no regrets after failing to get the nod of the CA. She says her fight for the poor will continue outside the DSWD.
May buhay ho ng paglilingkod sa labas ng DSWD. Ang sabi ko lang naman talagang mamimiss ko sa DSWD ay may driver ka at may sasakyan. Outside of that, wala na. Pero sanay naman ako, nag-MRT, no? At hindi ko isasanla ang kaluluwa ko para sa ganoong entitlement. I am a good company. I think to be rejected like Gina Lopez is a badge of honor for us. Kasi never kami masabi na corrupt kami. Tumindig kami sa prinsipyo. Kung wala na ako ngayon sa Department of Social Welfare and Development, nasa hanay ako ng mamamayan na tumitindig sa tama, sa bayan, at sa mga mahihirap.
In a statement, presidential spokesperson Ernesto Abella said they are saddened by the decision. He said, and I quote, Taguiwalo served the administration with passion, profession, and integrity. She made an impact in the lives of many Filipinos in her tenure as DSWD Secretary. Abella adds the president is now looking for a possible replacement. President Duterte visits the residents affected by the huge fire in San Miguel, Manila, near Malacanang. Hundreds of families are left homeless after fire broke out at around 3:30 a.m. It was extinguished past 8 this morning. Authorities say 2 people sustained minor injuries and some 250 families were affected. About 100 houses were damaged. The estimated cost of damage is at 2 million pesos. Mr. Duterte announced a 5,000 peso cash assistance for each affected family. He also distributed relief packs. The president promised that the Social Welfare Department will provide food for the displaced residents every day while they reel from the damages. Mayors in Lanao del Sur want barangay tanods armed to secure their communities from threat of the Maute group. But the military has misgivings and fears this could lead to abuses after the war. Our Rex Remito reports.
Lanao del Sur mayors are seeking the military's help to organize, train, and arm their barangay tanods to fight the Maute group. This is part of what they call their all-out war against the terrorists, which they declared last Saturday.
It is necessary to augment the security forces, existing security forces like the PNP in our city, especially in my city. No?
Yung kailangan talaga, dapat tulungan ng gobyerno na maarmasan yung kailangan talaga. Hindi man naman lahat kasi hindi naman lahat disiplinado eh.
They want their tanods to be like CAFGUs or Citizens Armed Force Geographical Units. CAFGUs usually serve as a force multiplier for the military when the need arises. The mayors say the armed tanods can help in fighting the Mautes and even prevent them from reorganizing after the war.
Kunwari, may dumating na mga Maute group, lalaban talaga kami. Galing sa kanila, yung supply, pwede rin magsali kami. Talagang lalaban kami dahil ayaw namin dito masali ito sa gulo ng lugar namin.
They also say armed tanods can help in house-to-house firefights since they are familiar with their respective areas. The armed forces earlier admitted most of the ground troops are more familiar in jungle fighting than urban warfare. The military, meanwhile, is still undecided on the requests of mayors to arm their tanods. Military officials say they don't want to help in creating private armies or even criminal gangs after the war.
We will provide the necessary training and the necessary equipment. Kasi kung yung recommendation ng iba na they will just arm and then fight. Basically, magkakaroon ito ng parang redo lang eh.
Some mayors who refuse to be named, however, say they only want their tanods to defend their towns and not wage an all-out war with the rebels. In Lanao del Sur, Rex Remitio, CNN, Philippines.
President Rodrigo Duterte says he will sell the mile-long commercial property in the Makati Financial District owned by property firm Sunvar Realty Development Corporation. In his speech at the 19th founding anniversary of advocacy group Volunteers Against Crime and Corruption, or VACC, Duterte said the Sunvar property will be up for bidding. Sunvar, meanwhile, says it will comply with a court order to vacate the so-called mile-long property. A notice was served Tuesday for Sunvar and its tenants to leave within 3 days. But in a statement, the company reiterates it entered into a legitimate commercial deal 35 years ago and pursued legal remedies to resist ejection, believing the government will honor a binding lease agreement that will expire in 2027. Solicitor General Jose Calida earlier said the Prieto and Rufino families' owned corporation owes the government over 1.6 billion pesos. The government stopped leasing the property in 2002, and a case was filed against Sunvar for occupying the property. The Prieto family also owns a broadsheet Philippine Daily Inquirer. We'll tell you what hinders some energy producers from developing more And when Transforming Tomorrow returns, we take a look at how solar energy is slowly becoming a viable choice for more and more consumers. Entertainment columnist Ricky Law is responding to criticism from TV host Chris Aquino on his article about her son Bimbi. In his column Wednesday, Law tells Aquino and other social media savvy mothers, quote, they should be the first to spare their children by keeping them away from the social media, unquote, because they themselves may be unwittingly putting their children in harm's way. The issue started after the columnist said on Tuesday Aquino's son was a no-show at the first birthday party of his half-brother, MJ, citing an event's organizer a source. In a series of Instagram posts, the queen of all media called the article, quote, foul and uncalled for. Aquino said she and MJ's mother, Michaela Cazola, agreed before the party that their children will just meet in private instead, so there was no need for a story. We celebrate Filipino films as the Pista ng Pelikulang Pilipino kicks off today. Take a look at your screens for the featured movies. One of them is AWOL, starring actor Gerald Anderson. He tells us the movie is dedicated to the soldiers fighting in Marawi. Mikhail Red's critically acclaimed film Birdshot is also part of the lineup. One film to watch out for in the festival is Patay na si Jesus, starring Cannes Film Festival Best Actress Jacqueline Jose. Another award-winning film in the festival is Pauwi na by director Paulo Villaluna. Star na si Van Damme Stallone by Randolph Longhas is also one of the entries. It tells the heartwarming story of a boy with Down syndrome and his dream of becoming an action star. The Pista ng Pelikulang Pilipino will run from August 16th to 22nd in all cinemas nationwide. And that's the newsroom for you this evening. I'm